If you're trying to hire in today's competitive job market, you're probably finding that it is very difficult simply to find qualified candidates. Well, today's sponsor has you covered. FindMeCandidates.com gives you premier placement on the most popular job boards and for less money than you spend on your own. Go check them out at FindMeCandidates.com.
Welcome to Business Playmakers, the podcast that meets with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders to learn about their experience and what success really means. Hosted by entrepreneur and leadership coach Kyle Gorman.
The Business Playmakers podcast is brought to you by Employer Blueprint. Employer Blueprint is focused on developing great leaders and high-performing managers through one-on-one coaching and group workshops. To schedule coaching for you or your team, simply visit employerblueprint.com. Well, today I want to welcome our guest, Kirk. Kirk has a great story, some great information, and I think people are really going to enjoy kind of what he's able to share. So, Kirk, first thing we're going to do here, I'm just going to hand it over to you, let you kind of walk us through your professional journey and tell us how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to chat with you. Mm-hmm. And my story, I actually started off doing the 9-to-5 life.
Yeah.
I went to school for screenwriting. I had very minimal success doing some indie projects. From there, I did a lot of ghostwriting for motivational speakers, online websites. Eventually, I landed a couple of jobs at ad agencies and marketing firms. Mm-hmm. All of it was 9-to-5 life. And I knew all these talented film people, and I started meeting all these great marketing guys.
Yeah.
And along the way, I thought, wouldn't it be great to merge these two mindsets? Usually film people are very creative and usually marketing guys are very data driven.
Right.
So it became my mission to merge these two types of mindsets and these friends and create Treehouse 51. And that's how we started our ad agency down here in Newport Beach.
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead.
And then from there, down the road after owning the agency and going, I've never owned a business before. Nobody in my family's owned a business before. So it was completely new territory for me. So going down that road is along the way, a lot of humbling stories, a lot of humbling events, and eventually the birth of the Bug Squasher.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the agency. Tell us about Treehouse and kind of what you did there and what that looks like.
So Treehouse 51, what we mainly offer are about 5 core services. We say we do everything, which we do everything under the umbrella of marketing.
Yeah.
But typically brands are just like, I want a website. I need some help with emails. I want to do some videos. I want to do some PPC and some content creation.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we do a lot more, but usually those are the things that people are like, this is what I really need. It's great that you guys do this other stuff, but this is what I need help with.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, so tell me, through the course of your career, I'm sure you've had some people that have kind of helped guide you, and of course, you mentioned there that was your first attack at business, and that wasn't really the space that you grew up in. So, what kind of mentors have you had that have maybe helped you along the way and helped guide your journey?
My biggest mentor has been my business partner. Mm-hmm. So I launched Treehouse 51 by myself and just reaching out to my friends, my film friends and marketing friends. Yeah. And I was doing this, and I got our first client through a referral from an old job, an old boss. Their business was Biz Name Wiz. They were a naming ad agency. Probably one of the funnest jobs I've ever had, where all you do is make up names for businesses or products or characters.
Yeah.
And when I was launching Treehouse 51, I just did a lot of organic outreach, just emailing people saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. And that guy introduced us to our first big clients. Are you familiar with sites like Upwork and Fiverr?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this one's one of the competitors are called Golance. Mm-hmm. We helped them launch, and it opened my eyes to freelancers across the world. And through that relationship, we actually shot a testimonial video where I met my business partner, Frank Cottle, and he owns Alliance Virtual Offices, and that was a door opener. Frank is like those commercials where it's the most interesting man in the world.
Yes, yeah.
So Frank is the most interesting man in the world. He's got a life lesson for everything, a story for everything. Super wise, really honest, great guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't BS you. When you need help, he tells you what you need to hear to advance. So he comes from a long line of entrepreneurs and owning businesses, and he's been such a huge mentor and friend and business partner to help us grow.
Okay, that's great. And so tell us about the Bug Squasher and what that is and kind of what that does, the benefits you've created there.
So the Bug Squasher actually came out of heartache. With Triage 51, like I said, we make a lot of websites for brands all across the US.
Yeah.
And on one occasion, we were making this website for an older lady, probably in her 70s. And it was a meaty website, maybe like over 50 pages or so.
Wow.
And she sent me this email, and it was like 10,000 words, single space. And then the body of the email was the problem.
Yeah.
And I remember just reading it and going, oh, Jesus. And the hard part is that she didn't have a screenshot. She didn't have a URL. She wasn't very specific with the issue. So I didn't have what I needed to diagnose the problem, which meant I had to ask her for more information.
Right.
And Kyle, it was like I kicked her puppy. It was the worst thing I could have done. She just went off on me. She was like, how come you don't know this? Why did I hire you guys? She was just very unhappy with everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I had to ask her, I'm like, what browser are you on? Are you on Firefox, Chrome? Of course, she was on Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
What type of device, desktop, mobile, Mac? Like, what are you looking at? What URL? I had to ask these questions to diagnose the problem. And eventually I got the information, and I went back to the guys and, I'm telling them the story. And we have probably like 1,000 variations of this story. This one's the most extreme and what started the Bug Squasher. But having worked with so many websites and so many projects, there's so many different variations of this where you get like a text message, a Skype message, an email, a phone call, and the client wants a change on the website. And you're like, well, I need to diagnose what you're saying. I need more information. So I'm talking to the guys about this. We're crying and laughing on the inside. And then I tell them, I say, like, I wish our clients would love us, number one. And number two, I wish that we could get all this information from these people without them having to feel put on the spot or without us having to ask them for this information.
Yeah.
And so the guys are still like having a good laugh. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. What would that look like if we built something where we put it on their website and with just a click, we could know all this information, their IP address, the URL, the browser, a screenshot, they could annotate. And that's how the Bug Squasher started. And when we got started with it, it just blew up. Once we had those features, I was like, well, we need more. We can't just stop there. We need reporting. We need to add team members. We need to add, my favorite feature is what I call the ability to whitelist IP addresses, which means in a perfect world, you never mess with the live website. You only work on the development website, but in reality, most people don't have budgets for a development website.
Yeah.
So we have this ability, it's called the whitelisting IP addresses, where you just put in an IP address and you can put the Bug Squasher on your live website, which means you don't have to wait till midnight to make changes or to install this tool. It can be on 24/7 and only that person will see it, or whomever you want will see the Bug Squasher.
Wow. Yeah, that's unique. So who uses this? What kind of target do you have on something like this? Is this for somebody that's building their own website on the side, or for agencies that are building multiple sites at a time? What's your primary focus here?
So for the now, our focus is developers, marketing agencies, people who work with websites regularly and have communication with either their client or clients or a team. This will be the tool that will help streamline communication. And what I mean by that is, again, all of us go through website changes. Right. And if you're getting an email about a website change, you're wasting your time. Because if you get an email, if it doesn't have the screenshot, the URL, it doesn't say what type of device is on, you're already wasted a bunch of time, and you need to email this person and say, what's this information? You have to ask, or you have to assume. And if you assume wrong, it will backfire on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's dive in a little bit further, Kirk, on you. So through the course of your career and kind of building Treehouse, and then this idea that came up with Bug Squasher and the process of building that, do you have any pinnacle moments or something that you look back through the course of your career and say, this was really a monumental turning point? This was a big win for me professionally. Yeah,
there's been a lot of moments where we have somebody on our team, his name's Matt, and he says, how do you know what you don't know? And he said this once, and I was like, "Are you reading a fortune cookie?" That's a beautiful quote. But that's been a common theme with Treehouse 51, launching and owning that business. How do you know what you don't know?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I remember was actually early on, we had a client who skipped out paying us. And it was the first time I've ever experienced that. And there was payroll coming up. We had a team where I had to pay them, and we didn't have the money to pay them.
Yeah.
And I remember just going through that and just being like, this happened because of a rookie mistake, inexperience, being too trusting, being too open, not having the right preparation, not knowing what to do, just assuming it's all going to be good.
Right.
But I remember going through that, and it was one of the most stressful times of owning Treehouse 51. Mm-hmm. What really saved me was, they always say, be nice to people, have good relationships with people. This is one of those moments where it saved me. The people on Treehouse 51, I've known them for years, and we have great relationships. Mm-hmm. And that was the only thing that saved me from them not firing and suing me and breaking my knees.
Right.
It was me coming to them and saying, we had the situation. I tried to fix it. We went to a debt collection agency. It's still in progress. It's not going to get solved, it looks like. If you could just give me an extension. Luckily, at the time, we had a couple more clients in the pipeline.
Yeah.
So I negotiated and told them, if you could just give me an extension, not only will I pay you the money that I owe you, but I'll give you a little bit of a bonus, just as a way to say I'm sorry again.
Right.
So I think really what the lesson there, and one of my biggest fears there, was losing these people.
Right.
You're not a team if it's just you doing everything. You're not an ad agency if you're a solar entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In order to grow the business, you need people, you need team. And in order to do that, you need really talented people. And having come from a 9-to-5 life and finding these guys, and I'm sure you can relate too, it's super hard to find people that you trust and who are talented and work hard.
Absolutely.
And when you find them, it's very easy to lose them. Mm-hmm. You don't pay them. They're not feeling challenged.
Right.
Those are typically the two things. And when that happens, it's a big blow. The whole entire company feels it. Morale goes down. The work quality goes down.
Yeah.
So losing talent, finding talent's hard. Losing it is even harder.
I agree. Yeah. And that's an excellent point you make. And, so one of my companies is a recruiting company. And so we deal with that talent acquisition piece all the time. And I agree wholeheartly. I think a piece of business that is oftentimes overlooked. I mean, obviously finding great people is tough. And that's how we as a recruiting business, that's our livelihood. But one of the things that I really try to talk to people about all the time is, creating that culture in which people don't want to leave. And that in fact, you kind of create that crowded restaurant that everybody's trying to get into, so that you don't need us as a recruiting company. You can, people are dying to come into your organization, and how to create the culture that people want to be in and that people don't leave, because that's the challenging part of a business, is when things are going smooth, things are rolling, and then you lose these key people, and figuring out why that is and what do we need to do different next time to make sure it does not happen to us again. It's such an important part of running a business.
Yeah, I agree 1,000,000,000%.
So Kirk, on the flip side of that, I'm sure also through the course of your career, you've had some kind of valley moments that hopefully you're able to look back on now and say, good thing we got over this. But maybe someone might define as a fail, just a moment where you really made a mistake, something screwed up, something didn't go the way as planned. But what is one of those moments that you maybe look back on as very memorable for you? One of those things you're not going to forget, and you need to tell others, like, hey, don't make the same mistake I did.
We actually once had this incident. It's a funny story. At the time, again, it made my knees weak. Yeah. Where we were working on this website project. Great guy based out in LA, super cool guy, great company. And he was just making a lot of changes to his website, and his server was having issues. And we have a few servers. We have some down here. We have some over in Europe. We have options if you need them.
Yeah.
And we have a server in Russia too. And so this is where the humor comes from, kind of in hindsight. Yeah. So we're working on this guy's website, and the server company says, I think it was like Bluehost. We had so many problems with Bluehost. Don't use Bluehost, people. Avoid at all costs. But like the server company like shoots the owner an email and says, hey, we're going to be making changes to your website, to your server, just letting you know it's going to happen between Monday and sometime at the end of the year. It was like super vague, and it was like 7 days. We're like, what? Like, well, okay, so we'll just monitor a situation.
Right.
And Bluehost does this every now and then. They send you emails. We're going to make updates. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so they make an update, and the website goes down. And so we're thinking like, okay, well, maybe it's just down here in California, but it's fine in New York. Nope.
Right.
It's down everywhere. And then so we reach out to Bluehost because there's nothing else we can do. It's their server. We reach out to their customer support, and we're just it's like going to the DMV. It's just painful, super, super painful. And, absolutely no help. Nothing's getting done. We're not making any progress. And now the client is freaking out. They're saying they're losing millions of dollars every minute. Isn't that always the case? They're just losing all this money, losing all this traffic. What are we going to do to fix it?
Yeah.
And so in that situation, we did something that we've never done before. We just grabbed the website and we were like, okay, what server do we have the most space on that will run the fastest, that we can get this up the fastest?
Right.
And so the one that we had was a server in Russia. So we put it on the server in Russia, and it was live. It was on. It was working. It was actually faster than it was for Bluehost.
Wow. Yeah.
And the client like calls me and he's like, "Oh my God, you fixed it. What did Bluehost say?" And so I tell him like, "Well, Bluehost actually hasn't solved the problem, and there's no deadline of when they're going to solve it. But we fixed it. We have it on a server." And the guy was like really excited. He's like, "Well, okay, cool. Where's it at?" And I tell him it's in Russia. And then he freaks out. He's like, "Are you serious? Like, is this going to get hacked?" I'm like, "It's ours. It's fine." Yeah. And it was during that whole time of like the election with Trump versus Hillary. And so that didn't help the situation. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And then also like, "Why do you have servers in Russia?" I'm like, "We have servers everywhere." And so,
oh man.
But what I learned from that, in the end, Bluehost ended up like reaching out to us, and they said like, "Okay, everything's working now." We put everything back on Bluehost. But in the end, what I learned from that is sometimes it's better just to do stuff and get it done and ask for forgiveness after.
Yeah.
In that situation, that client was freaking out. And you can look at the data. He wasn't losing millions of dollars, but he was losing traffic, and a good amount of traffic was being lost. Yeah. And in some situations, your back is in the corner, and you have to get stuff done. You have to find a way just to make it work. Right. We often talk about. I often see a lot of clients who are searching for perfection. We can't go live until this is 100% perfect. Right. Obviously, you don't want to put out crap, but you also don't want perfection to get in the way of getting started. Yeah. In this situation, this guy was losing traffic. He definitely lost some money. So putting it on a server as a Band-Aid for the immediate solution worked out for us. And it's a story. We still have that client. It's a story that we laugh about and joke about. And when he's upset, he brings it up. Yeah. But in the end, like it helped him continue to get business and get traffic. Yeah. So I recommend don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything that's going to hurt anybody. But if you're in a situation where it's like, I have no other choice but to do this, consider it and do the pros and cons. He was already getting frustrated and already upset. It's not like it could get any worse. The only way it's going to get worse is if you lose more and more business. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the attributes of a good leader is someone that can just make a decision and be able to run with it and go. Because you're right. In a situation like that, if you sit back on it and say, "Well, I know we need to do something, but what are we going to do? Let's try this. Let's try the other. Think about all these options." Then the core of the problem was we are losing traffic. Well, how do we solve the core of the problem? Is it ideal to put it a server in Russia? No, maybe it's not ideal for the client right now, but the core of the problem is they're losing traffic and we have to fix that immediately. And I think that's something, an attribute of a great leader is someone that understands that we've got to figure out what the core problem is. Let's fix the core problem. And then we can work out details as we continue to go. So, that's a great lesson learned and something we all face at different times. So it's a great story. Unfortunately, like you say, you've kept the client and it's something you all are able to laugh about now, but I'm sure at the moment, everybody was pretty flustered, just trying to figure out what the heck do we do right now?
I remember talking to customer support. I had my guys talk to customer support for Bluehost.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked them, like, I need a transcript of this. I need to like show this client because this is going to kick us in the butt.
Yeah.
And the customer support guy said, I can give you a transcript, but I'm not going to have my name on this. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, nope, I am not putting my name on it. And I was like, oh man, this is bad.
Yeah. Well, so, Kirk, as you sit right now and you've had some great experience and you've been able to do some really impressive things over time. But as you sit right now in your career, how would you define success? What does that look like for you?
I think success is identify what's the thing that everybody has in common. For us, what I think everybody has in common is time. Mm-hmm. It's the one commodity you just can't get more of. And a lot of times, whether consciously or unconsciously, we waste time. We waste time like, the bug squasher. We waste time on those emails. We waste time on that other story, figuring out solutions. So we waste time being sad and unhappy. Mm-hmm. I really recommend finding what you do with your time and making sure it's where you want to spend it. Yeah. So for me, success means having the time to be happy and to do stuff that makes me feel like I'm doing something creative. Yeah. I pride myself on doing a lot of things creatively. I know when it comes to business, you should look at the revenue, the bottom line. Are you making money? Is your business growing? That's definitely a huge part of any startup. Yeah. But most entrepreneurs, most startups, they're doing a business because they don't want to work the 9-to-5 life. Right. They have a passion. Hopefully they're not thinking like I'm going to be on a beach 24/7. That's not reality for most entrepreneurs. Yeah. Most of the time you're hustling 7 days a week, working 24 hours a day. Right. Things are going to go wrong, expect it to go wrong. You're going to learn a lot. That's okay. Mm-hmm. So for me, definitely having that time to do stuff that's creative is what makes me happy. Having that time when I started Treehouse 51 and brought everybody together, the people I brought were people I've known for years, who I had great relationships with. They were my friends. It wasn't a 9-to-5 setting. It wasn't, I'm your boss. It's Kirk. We've known each other for years. I know what you can do. Let's do something together.
Right. So do you think that your definition and concept of success has maybe changed through the course of your career from the early days?
I don't think so. In the beginning, when I started Treehouse 51, I was never chasing money. I've never been chasing money or revenue, which is bad. I'm sorry, Frank, business partner. I've always been on this quest to do something that's so creative that people just stop and say, "Wow, that was amazing. That made me feel something." That's what gets me excited, and that's what I've been chasing when I push the guys to go for, to do something that people are going to look at and say, "Whoa, that made me feel something," whatever it is, and hopefully it's a positive feeling.
Right. Do you think you you obviously, that's something that's very intentional that you have to do intentionally. Otherwise it's easy to get distracted. Are the things that you've put in place either accountability metrics for yourself or just kind of ways that you look to recalibrate occasionally to make sure that you're focusing on the things that are important and that you are focusing on those passions instead of chasing the dollar, instead of running down rabbit holes?
For myself, owning the two businesses, it's 24/7 all week. So I did maybe like 6 or 7 months ago, notice that all I was doing was working. All I was doing was I was either on my phone or on the computer, and I was losing sight of just hanging out with my wife, talking to friends, listening to music, just being myself, just living. Doing stuff for Treehouse 51 on the bug squasher. It doesn't feel like work. Most entrepreneurs, most startups will tell you that it doesn't feel like work after a while. It just feels like this is who you are and what you do. But you can't forget, like, there's a life outside of it, and technically it is work. You're getting paid for it.
Sure.
So you have to find that balance. I am still struggling with it. I'm a total night owl. So when my wife falls asleep, I'm awake till like 3-4 a.m. on my phone. I'm still working on stuff, and I just love it. So
well, and that's part of the joy of it. And you're exactly right. I mean, when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like you're working. You just know that you still get the paycheck. You're still able to live on it. So as we look forward here a little bit, Kirk, what do the next, like, say, 10 years look like for you or for the companies? What do you have you thought about kind of creating that vision of what the next 10 years look like for you professionally?
What I want to do is, right now we're doing all this outreach for the Bug Squasher.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, did I share with you the rap video that we made?
I don't believe so.
All right. So I have a good story. With the Bug Squasher, with Trust 51, we do marketing for brands all across the US, and we have to honor those brand voices.
Yeah.
So that 70-year-old lady would never be open to a rap video.
Sure.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
And so with the Bug Squasher, it's our company. We treat it as a client, but it's also ours. And I was thinking, how are we going to increase brand awareness? How are we going to get the word out for this?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this for such a long time, and there's a Target not far from where I live. My wife and I drive by it all the time, and there's this kid there, and he's always selling these rap CDs.
Yeah.
And I probably saw it for like a good month, and then I stopped in my tracks, and I was like, oh my God, I got to make a rap video. And my wife's like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, no. That's not the point. I'm going to make a rap video for the Bug Squasher.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm going to do it. And so, Monday comes and I talk to the guys and I'm all pumped. And I'm like, guys, I know how we're going to market the Bug Squasher. We're going to make a rap video. Yeah. And then they're just looking at me and they're like, okay, Kirk is totally crazy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he's lost it.
Yeah. It's like, it's not the point, but just follow me down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, like, we're going to do this. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a ton of fun. And so we do it. We don't hire that guy from Target. We talk to probably like 20 different rappers. We find one that we really like. Yeah. And we shoot this. We get a bunch of stock footage and footage of the platform, cut it all together. And we have this rapper come up with the original song. We put it on YouTube, and within about 2.5 weeks, it gets over 20,000 views.
Wow, that's great.
And it's called the Bug Squasher, Squash Them Bugs. You can look that up on YouTube, or the Bug Squasher rap song. And so that was so much fun. And it was so like, we didn't have any limits. We didn't have any restrictions. We got to be as creative as we want. And it was just a blast to make. And I'm thinking lately, we got a lot of people who sent us messages saying, what's the next song going to be? Are you going to do a country song?
Yeah.
You can do a rock song. So I'm trying to think, like, you want to top yourself. You want to find a way to grow. Yeah. So with the Bug Squasher, I definitely want to continue to explore different avenues of creativity. The music thing was super fun. I enjoyed it a lot. So we are seriously considering doing, like, okay, let's do a Spanish song. Let's do a love song. Let's do a rock song. So we are talking about that and thinking about it. My vision for the Bug Squasher is eventually that this won't just be a tool for marketing agencies and developers, but this will be the standard. Never again will anybody suffer through an email of website changes. This will be, I'm working on a website, the Bug Squasher is installed as part of our process.
Yeah. That's great. Good. So have you even considered, have you thought about, and I always ask this question on the show, what does the idea of retirement look like for you one of these days?
I haven't put enough thought into it. I actually recently, so I got married about a year ago, and before that, completely against life insurance, completely against retirement.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just take my money and just buy stuff with it.
Right.
And then I got married and my whole perspective changed. And we actually got we did the whole retirement plan. And I remember thinking, I'm such a chump. I can't believe I'm doing this. None of my friends have it, but it's like, it's the responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have like a specific age in mind or a specific number in mind. Mm-hmm. I feel like the world has changed so much from our parents, where our parents, they're like, okay, I'm going to retire when I'm 75, I'm 60. Yeah. With us, I feel like the cost of living just increases every month and new things come out. And I just feel like retirement is just not something that's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah. I think right now it's about building that legacy. What I want to do is build these businesses and be able to pass it on and keep it in the family and friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. And so something else I always like to ask about is, a little obscure, but let's say we get off this call and you find out that you just randomly win $1 million. What do you do with that?
I just bought a lotto ticket yesterday.
Well, there you go. So it may happen. All right, perfect. If that happens, what do you do?
Okay, so if we buy a lotto ticket, I guess this will go on record. The reason I bought a lotto ticket is because my wife's coworker said that he had a dream about me, saying that I won the lotto ticket, and he called her and was talking to her and saying that Kirk needs to buy a lotto ticket.
Wow.
And so this just happened yesterday. Yeah. And so my wife and I were talking about it and joking. I was like, well, let's buy a lotto ticket, and if we win, we'll give him some. Yeah. So I think if we won the lotto, knock on wood, what I would definitely do is first travel a bit, unplug. I'm always in the matrix. Mm-hmm. So I would unplug. I would give my guys a little bonus and be like, we're going to take some time off. Mm-hmm. Meet me in like a couple months. Travel, eat really good food, get really fat, and then come back and invest in something. I'd love to. I've been interested in franchises, like restaurant franchises, doing something like that, like get more businesses and keep it with the family and friends. After launching Trust 51, I realized how many people in my circle are like, wow, I want to do that, but I have to do this 9-to-5 life. And it's such a big risk and such a big jump to do your own thing. Yeah. And there's a good chance if you do that jump, it will fail. There's definitely been low points and definitely been struggles with Trust 51 that I've shared with you and more. So there's a very good possibility it will fail. So winning that lotto, I would definitely want to buy like some type of company or some type of franchise and pass it along to family or friends and be like, I just want to fund it. You can manage it. You can do your own thing if this is something you're interested in. Yeah. Yeah. And then also, I still have that screenwriting passion. I still write all the time. I'd love to like shoot a movie. I'd love to I definitely want to take time off to be lazy and get fat, but I don't want to do that for my entire life. I want to be like, okay, that was fun. Now let's build something. Let's create more stuff. Yeah. My friends actually asked me variations of this, like, what did you do if Trust 51 made $1 billion?
Right.
And I oftentimes bring up Elon Musk. Elon Musk did the whole PayPal stuff, made like 180 million, and then went off into Tesla and SpaceX and just doing all these incredible things that's changing the world. Yeah. And it just blows my mind how somebody would do that with all that money, knowing that, you're building a rocket company. Are you nuts? Like, it's going to fail. Right. So I don't think I would invest that much money into doing something like that, but I definitely would be open. Like, if it was like 100 million, be like, yeah, let's invest 20 million into doing something that's going to help the world. Right. Right. That would be exciting. And whenever you talk through that and you talk about creating, buying these businesses, starting businesses, and where you really, what you're talking about, and so much of that, the thread in that for you has been, you're investing in people. These people that they've got the ability, they just, for whatever reason, to leave the 9-to-5 and go do that is too much of a risk or whatever. And, when you invest in people, it rarely do you go wrong. I mean, if you invest in the right people, rarely do you go wrong in that. And I think that's great. It's a great way to be able to kind of use that and truly as an investment and not just spending money. Because those are things that kind of lead you through and help in tough times and spread out your kind of business portfolio a little bit. Those are always good ways to invest that money when it comes along. I love that. Invest in people. I'm going to steal that from you. Yeah, take it. Absolutely. That's a great line. Yeah. So speaking of people, I always like to take a couple questions where we just look at kind of helping others and sharing some information. So you obviously have had the opportunity to work with a lot of people, clients, employees, and through the course of your careers, you've had an opportunity to work with these different people. Are there any particular personality types that you have found just really click well with you, that you just relate to really well? Any personality types that you just enjoy being around? I love being around people, clients, employees, leads who don't consider themselves experts. Yeah. I can't stress enough how many times we've gotten like a cold email, a phone call, even when we were looking for developers on the resume, where they said, I'm an expert at XYZ. Right. Right. And it's just frustrating because there's no way you could be an expert. If you're an expert, you wouldn't be here. Yeah. You'd be making bank. You'd be with Elon. So you're just not an expert. So definitely people who have that hunger to learn, people who are students of their industry. people who are always sharing knowledge. Those are the type of attributes that attract Trust 51, that attract myself to them. So people who are hungry to learn, who are interested in knowing more, working with clients, the clients who don't ask questions, who don't ask like, what are you doing to my website? Who are just like, get it done. Yeah. Those are the ones that we've always had issues with because they don't understand what's going on. And you can explain it to them. We often send like videos that say like, this is what we're going to be doing. But if they don't watch it, if they don't ask questions, and then something gets done and it's not what they thought, then it hurts. It hurts the entire project. It hurts the relationships. So definitely people who are hungry to learn more and to know more.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I like that. The idea of the expert concept. I think that's a great point. I've never really thought about it from that perspective, but I like your take on that. That's really good. We're all trying to learn. I used to joke that it concerns me a little bit whenever physicians talk about having a practice, and I'm like, I don't want you to practice. Like I want you to know before you. But it really is the same type of thing. And attorneys and doctors, that's they refer to it as a practice because it is ever evolving and ever learning. And that's a great point about all of us in all of our industries, that we should constantly, and we are constantly learning and trying to figure out what's next, what's the latest trend, what's something else that can help. So I like that concept of the expert side. That's really good.
Cool. Yeah, and it's so relevant to especially when it comes to marketing. Yeah, I mean, if you Google just Google SEO, what changed this year, and all these articles will come up, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, am I doing anything right? Yeah. So it is always evolving. It is always changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so also then, as you kind of invest in yourself, and you talked about kind of reset, re-energizing, and things like that, but so as you look at different ways that you invest in yourself, what are some maybe books or authors or just resources, whether it be, podcasts or whatever, what are some things that you recommend to others to say, when I've got downtime, when I've got time to really kind of pour into my own knowledge, these are the places I go. What are some things you might recommend?
So what I recommend is, first and foremost, be 110% honest with yourself. So on the idea of you're not an expert, there are things that you're really, really good at. Yeah. And there are things that you're great at. And then there are things that you're iconic at. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Don't try to be the person that does everything. It's totally fine to get help. That's why we have a team at Trust 51, because I am not the best person to work with your server. You need this guy to do it. Yeah. So don't try to. I would stay away from like topics that where you're just feeding your ego. Yeah. Try to find stuff that you're going to expand your knowledge in, or that will help you grow in some way. Yeah. So for myself, one thing that I really enjoyed is I come from a screenwriting background, so I love stories, and I try with our marketing. I try to tell the guys like whatever we do, it needs to tell some type of story. It doesn't have to be a crazy story. So I often look for resources like that. One thing that I would recommend if you're a fan of stories is checking out that Stephen King book where he talks about how to write. And he just talks about his journey from being a kid to when he launched and got big. It's a really short read. And in it, he does a lot of just great callbacks from being a child to lessons learned to how he tells stories. And he really humanizes the entire path. Yeah. So what I appreciate about that is marketing. It's becoming this thing where everybody's sending these tweets and they're on Facebook and they're saying like, okay, well, you're on Facebook, so that means you must be successful. And it's just, people are becoming blind to it now. Yeah. They're not paying attention to all these ads, to all these posts, because it's not human. Right. So I definitely recommend reading this book. You'll get what I mean by that. And try to find that human angle. People are hungry for finding something they can connect to on a human level. Yeah. Yeah. So the guy that I've had working for me and then eventually went in a marketing capacity and then eventually went and started his own business, but who still does quite a bit of our marketing, including
He actually does all of the post-production work for this podcast. And that's a comment that he makes all the time, is that you've got to make it human. You've got to make your social media human. You've got to make your company human, because we're all looking for that human element. So he's going to get giddy whenever he hears you talking about this, because that's exactly, the take that he always takes, is that we tend to lose that in this kind of connected world, where we can connect with people all the time, but we lose that human element. And so often what happens from a marketing perspective with our business is we put on a persona, but it's not really who we are. We lose that human aspect to it. And that's a big deal for him, is making sure that, we are still human, even in our business and the way that we present ourselves. And, people see that, you can feel the difference when a company is really people as opposed to a persona that they're putting on.
That's perfect. What is that guy's name?
His name is Diedrich Jackson, and he's with Just You Marketing, justyoumarketing.com. And it's just JUST, the letter U, marketing.com.
Okay. Diedrich, I feel you, bro. I'm with you.
Yeah. There's an element to that we tend to lose. So, he's going to love kind of that validation that others see and feel the same thing out there. So Kirk, before we finish up here, how can people connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, learn more about the services that you're offering out in the market?
Easiest way, if you want to get in contact with me, is you can go to either website, trios51.com or the bugsquasher.com. Mm-hmm. And there's contact form, contact page on both of them. You can just hit contact and say, I want to talk to Kirk, and the guys will assign it to me and say, this is for you. That'll probably be the easiest way. If you want to reach out to me other ways, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I get a lot of spam messages on LinkedIn though. So just be aware that, it's just really blown up lately, where it's just nonstop. So probably that would be a good way to do it.
All right. Very good. Well, Kirk, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking some time out to share your story and share what you're doing there. And thank you for taking some time to chat for a little while. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I had a good time.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for checking out today's Business Playmaker. Links to the resources discussed in today's episode are available in the show notes. For more information and resources from your host, you can visit him at www.kylegorman.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast for the latest episodes. And until next time, make it a great day.